Esaina el hari mehain yavo Ezri. Ezri meim Adonai. Usei shamayim varetz. Al yitain lamoraglecha. Al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan. Shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha. Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha. Yom HaShemesh lo yakeka ve'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvolecha. Ne'ata ve'ad olam. Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help comes from Adonai, creator of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, and your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian, your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. And Adonai will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever.
We are here today so that we can together say goodbye to Irwin, Bill, Gart, knowing that his story and his life and his time here among us was great and full. And yet it is still a really hard task to say goodbye to someone that we loved and someone who took up such a big space in your lives and in your world. I am Rabbi Emily Hyatt.
Cantor Liz Sachs.
And we will be with you for this next little while. We essentially have three things that we do at a Jewish funeral. The first thing that we're going to do is prepare ourselves for this hard task of telling the story of a life and then saying goodbye. We do that with psalm and song and poem. We then have the opportunity and the job, the obligation even, to tell the story of Bill's life, to look back, because you can't tell that story until you know how it ends. And now we get to think about what we have to learn from his story. And then we will conclude the service that we're having here at Emmanuel, and we will finish our time together at the cemetery where we will say goodbye to Bill's physical presence with us here. And so we begin to prepare ourselves. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and loved ones and old men. And if you need to cry, cry for your neighbor walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. So look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Remember, love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.
When our loved ones pass away, there are particular parts of our traditions, special psalms that we use to help bring us comfort. One of the psalms that we use often in times of grief and sadness is Psalm 23. And in this psalm, it reminds us of a peaceful place, a place that we hope our loved one and their soul has returned to, a place without pain, a place without want, a place that we can imagine in our minds helps them rest. This psalm also gives us a message that when we walk through this sadness, even at the depths of despair in this valley of death, that we walk through it and not sit in it. And we walk through it hand in hand with the community who has come here today to hold us and help us in this time of sadness. And so we chant the words of Psalm 23, and then we will read it together in English. Adonai roi lo echsar bino deshe yarbitzeini al mei menuchon yanaleni nafshi yeshoveh yancheni v'maglei tzedek yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo gam ki elech begit zalmaven lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha heima yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorarai dishanda vashemen roshi kosi revaya ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar.
I invite you to join with me in the English at the top of the back page of your pamphlet. God is my shepherd, I shall not want.
God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever.
And with those words in our hearts, we take a moment now for our own prayers, for a moment of silence, for our own memories, for the words that we need to say or the words that we don't have. We come back together in just a moment.
Iuleratson imrefi v'gionli bi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri, Tzuri, Vegoali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer.
When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light and rare and sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent on their nurture, now shrink. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of a dark, cold cave. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. It doesn't seem at this moment always very clear to us what will bloom from a moment of loss. What will we learn and take when we look back at a life that is lost? And so today we have the opportunity and indeed the obligation, we're required to look back and tell the story of someone's life when they are done living it. And our job is not just to sit in the reverberations of what it feels like when a great tree falls, right? You can feel your heart sort of beating from the noise, and you can imagine that you're trying to find out why and where, and was there anything under it, and what are the immediate consequences of the great tree. But really, what we want to know is what will bloom from it. What are the pieces of this story and the legacy of Bill that you will take with you from this day? And so it is my great honor to call Brandon and Marissa and Julie to tell that story. Are you guys good? Okay.
Many of you may not know, but a fun fact about my sister Jennifer is that she was the first Gart girl born in 50 years, and I was the second. That's not easy for a dad who loves sports. And growing up with a dad in retail, we learned at an early age that if we wanted to spend time with him on Sundays, we were going to have to learn to love the world of sports. Football was his favorite, followed by basketball, golf, soccer, and baseball. Our dad quickly realized there were benefits to being a girl dad, as for many years, my sister and I wrapped holiday gifts for him at Coleman Bourne and modeled ski clothes at all of his events. And when it was time for my sweetheart dance, we had a major snowstorm in Dallas that shut down the city and postponed the event. I requested that my dad call the mayor to clear the streets, and he did, or at least he told me that he did. Our dad loved coming to visit in Denver, special occasions, or it didn't have to be a special occasion. He didn't miss anything, and the ski areas loved it because every time my mom came in the winter, we were guaranteed a major snowstorm, just like yesterday, because she loves the snow so much. Most recently, he came for his kindergarten reunions. I think the last one was right before COVID. It was his 80th. Many of his friends had stopped driving by then. I remember him asking me to pick them up and drive them someplace. While in the car listening to their stories, I realized that's how he must have felt driving us around all those years. Even though we were many miles apart, we were always close in our hearts. Jennifer and I will always be grateful that we grew up with such amazing parents. Last December, they celebrated 63 wonderful years. One of our favorite memories is when we surprised them for their 60th wedding anniversary. They were still sparkling after 60 years. It's also amazing. My mom made every meal, and when she was hospitalized during COVID, he went to the hospital every day and stayed all day. This is also when our dad learned how to Zoom at 89 years old. When I would call him in the mornings before he went to the hospital and before his meetings to get a doctor update, he would tell me, and then he would say, "Jewel, I have to go. I need to go to my meeting. I need to go put on my tie and then to my meeting and head down to the hospital." I tried to convince him that he did not need to wear a tie for his Zoom meetings, but he insisted that he did. I'm pretty sure that's why my mom wonders why everyone dresses so casually for work now. Another fun fact about my sister is that we love to talk on the phone at 7:30 a.m. when we are both on our way to work. We both have long drives to work, and it makes the time go a little faster. This is typically when I get the daily report about my parents. She usually shares how many times my dad has called before 8 a.m., how he almost made her late for work, and their daily routine. Everything is fine as long as we stick to the routine, she says. Now's the perfect time for me to share our gratitude for my sister for the amazing job she does taking care of our parents. She has an abundance of patience and makes sure that everything is perfect. We were very lucky as our dad, Gramps, was 91 years young and he was still driving. One of the things that we loved to do with our dad, Gramps, was our annual football pool. Each year we picked a team to win, and then we had second chance pool and the playoffs. This year, Jennifer joined the fun. We did our weekly picks, seeking advice from our dad. We would call him each week to get his pick, and he would always say, "Let me call you back. I need to go get the paper." That was always followed by a phone call explaining why we needed to pick that team, who was hurt, etc. I always hung up the phone, and we had a solid game plan. Recently, I called them to share that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. He immediately said to me, "Your mom had the exact same breast cancer at the exact same age." When I told them about my treatment, he said, "Good. I took your mom to all 30 radiation treatments." I was nervous as this was the first time my dad was not able to come in and take me. He assured me that everything was going to be all right, and once again it was. I called them after I rang the bell, and I could hear the cheers all the way from Texas and New York. While visiting this past Thanksgiving, and we discussed moving forward, he told me now's the time to be moving forward, to be the best version of yourself that you can be. But unfortunately, one of our teammates was not moving forward quite as fast, and we called a timeout as he was put on the injured reserve list at the beginning of the year. He was making a quick recovery. They diagnosed his infection, treated it, and he was off to rehab. When we said, "Dad, we're going to come in and visit you," he would get very upset. I didn't really understand this at first. While in rehab, I received daily morning reports about the PT who had come to get him, and he would request that they come back when his game was over. The next day, the PT arrived, and he told them that they could do therapy in his room, and he wonders where we get our mischievousness from. But just as the Broncos quarterback struggled this past year, it was the same for the MVP of our family. Once he got settled into rehab, Texas got hit with a major ice storm. Jennifer and my mom could not visit him daily to straighten his blankets just the way he liked them or line up his items. We could tell he was lonely, so we called more often, but we could tell something was wrong. The Gart girls ended up in the playoffs. Jennifer and I picked our teams. I told her I would call Dad to make sure we were on the right game plan and text in our picks. When I called and told him, I waited for him to say, "Just a minute, let me go get the paper." But this time it was different. He just said, yes, you'll be fine." I called Jennifer and I told her we were all set. That week we lost, and I called my dad to recap the game. He said, "Don't worry, the Super Bowl is coming up, his favorite game. Mahomes is going to come back in the second quarter." My mom had his Super Bowl snacks prepared, but unfortunately, the Friday before, he started to experience kidney failure, and we felt it best to put him in hospice care. We arrived in Dallas on the first flight Saturday morning, and when I saw him, I understand why he didn't want us to come or go to therapy in the rec room. It was because he was 91 years young, and that's how he wanted us to remember him. But that's not how we felt, as we wanted to be right by his side, just as he had been throughout our lives. In our eyes, he still looked strong, and he passed away peacefully during the third quarter of the Super Bowl. Once again, he was right about the Chiefs making a comeback. We find great relief that he passed away during the month of February, the month filled with love. Although we don't need a specific month, our dad, Gramps, loved us unconditionally all year long. And we wanted to share our appreciation for all the love and support we've received during this difficult time in our lives from our wonderful family and friends. We've loved every heartfelt story, visit, text, call, email. They all have a common theme about how much our dad was loved and admired for being a mensch and a mentor. He loved all of his nieces and nephews. He loved talking about soccer, laughing with you all, politics, business. One of my most recent favorite stories is when the newest member of our family, Ethan, was visiting Dallas last September. He hung out with Gramps, and afterwards he started calling his Papa Larry Gramps. And we were so fortunate to add Yael, Margaret, Lev, and Anat to our family. My dad called them Mishbuka, and that made them very happy. I would also like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to Rabbi Hyatt for your unending support this week, and to Jim, Joya, and Feldman Mortuary. It was very comforting for us to fly back with our dad, and for handling all the details so perfectly. His favorite song was by Frank Sinatra, "I Did It My Way." Dad, we're so happy that you had such a happy life and lived it your way. Thank you for filling our world with so much joy. So now we'd like to raise a glass of crown in your honor. L'chaim, here's to your great life.
As we reflect on our time spent with our sweet Grandpa Vevi, a simple repeated phrase continues to come to mind. I love you, I love you, I love you. Or as my grandpa and I would say to each other each time we said goodbye in person or on the phone, love you, love you, love you. My grandpa would say, I have so much love in my heart for you, it takes me 3 times to say it.
Our grandfather's love knew no bounds. To know him was to love him and to be loved by him. Our grandfather inspired love within his family, his community, and the people he worked with. He cared deeply about relationships, treated others with the utmost respect, and cared for many friends, acquaintances, and business partners as if they were family.
The first love is the love he had for his wife and our grandmother, Donna Gart. 63 wonderful years of marriage. Our grandma fell in love with our grandpa for his kindness and because he always put family first. Grandpa fell in love with grandma because who wouldn't? She's the most beautiful, kind, caring, and smart person we know. They were married on December 30th, 1959, in their rabbi study in Oklahoma City.
Our grandpa was very religious about his weekend breakfast routine. On Saturdays, he would go out and get 2 chocolate cake donuts, some donut holes, and maybe a few others to make a baker's dozen. On Sundays, Grandma Donna would always make him his favorite, lox bagels and coffee with a cream and sugar. It had to be just right, else it may get sent back to the kitchen right before the football game started. Their partnership over the past 60 years has inspired all of us and brought our family closer together with mutual love and respect, and we feel fortunate to be born into their family.
Soon after, they had 2 wonderful children, Jennifer and Julie, who continue to uphold our grandfather's legacy by always being there for their family. They are selfless and continuously care for my brother and I while giving back to their community. We also had a very special relationship with our grandpa. We felt his love deeply, not only by the fact that we would say, love you, love you, love you, but in his actions, that he would pick up the phone anytime, day or night, just to chat, would call at midnight to be the first person to wish you happy birthday. There was no event that our grandpa wasn't there. Every soccer practice, every graduation, his support was constant.
Our grandpa instilled in us a strong sense of leadership. He led by example as the leader of our family, ensuring we prioritize spending time together and nurturing our relationships with one another. He set a strong example in his professional life as a lifelong entrepreneur, master salesman, and builder of ironclad relationships. He was a continual source of advice, a person to vent to, a shoulder to cry on, and was always there to celebrate our successes. My fondest memories of my grandfather include seeking his counsel on all of my important decisions in my life, and there's no way I'd be where I am today without him.
Our grandpa would often say, it doesn't get much better than this, most often when we were sitting around the dinner table as a family. We also went on many adventures and created lifetime memories and stories, which included a birthday limo ride around Dallas to Krispy Kreme, a family trip to the Bahamas, my 21st birthday in Las Vegas, and road tripping around Texas. It didn't matter where we were or what we were doing with my Grandpa Vevi. Every moment was special to him and the people he was with.
Another phrase our grandpa would often say is he would remind us he was captain of the Colts. This was a reference to the pride he had serving as the captain of his basketball team at the New Mexico Military Institute for high school. We had an inside joke as a family for years that anything great our grandfather did was because he had previously been the captain of the Colts. He had a deep love for sports, in particular basketball, and he remained in great physical and mental shape over the years by shooting hoops at his local gym. When he put up his basketball shoes for good, he became an avid basketball and football fan. Some of our most fun memories include going to the Cowboys Thanksgiving game, going to Bill's Sporting Goods shop here in Denver to pick out baseball cards, and participating in the weekly football betting league. Sports were a big part of our grandfather's life, which explains why he was such a great team player in everything he did. Our grandfather cherished his roots and never forgot where he came from or the people who shaped him. While we never met him, our great-grandfather George, Vevi's father, had a tremendous impact on our grandfather's life, and we feel like we knew him because we knew our grandfather so well. Another place our grandfather held strong to his roots was his friendships he formed in elementary school here in Denver at Cheltenham. He loved his friends he made there and held reunions with his kindergarten class, the most recent one being in 2019. We were always incredibly impressed by this. Who still speaks to their friends from kindergarten? Our Grandpa Vevi, that's who.
In honor of our grandfather's memory, we want to honor and continue his tradition of building strong roots, which is why, in lieu of flowers, we're asking those close to our grandfather to consider a contribution to our fund, which will be used to create a permanent memory of our grandfather at his beloved Cheltenham Elementary School. The link for that cause can be found on Vevi's obituary page. Our grandfather continuously gave love to his community, both in Denver and in Dallas. In his 80s, he was appointed and served as the Senior Affairs Commissioner in Dallas for District 11, where he served on the Housing Committee for 8 years straight and also served on his Community Homeowners Association. During this time, he organized clothing drives for the less fortunate, worked in the community to get bikes donated to the Dallas Police Department. He had a tremendous impact on the community. His love and dedication also transpired in his day-to-day interactions. When we went to give his doctor's office their holiday gifts, he was promptly greeted by each of the nurses with a hug and a kiss on the cheek.
Our grandfather's love has shaped us into who we are today. He has bestowed values upon us that have laid the foundation of who we are and our family. Grandpa, we are eternally grateful for you. We love you, we love you, we love you.
How those great trees fall. We imagine that it takes years for them to start to become part of the earth again, and for them to start having, things that grow out of them, being the ground out of which beautiful flowers and new trees grow. And yet it is so clear. It is so clear and obvious that this is not a great tree that we have to wait for it to fade back into the earth to see what it is growing, but instead it has been spreading its roots for decades, 91 years, in fact, and that so much has already come out of the love that Bill had in his heart, with which he loved his beautiful wife and raised his beautiful daughters and loved his grandchildren and his family and his community. There is already a beautiful forest, I think, that is the product of his love for you. And so I know that you will take it with you for so long as you hold his memory so close to you.
And so at this time we say, eternal our God, Master of mercy, give us the gift of remembering. May our memories of our beloved be tender and true, undiminished by time. Let us recall them and love them as they were. Shelter us with the gift of tears. Let us express our sense of loss, our sorrow, our pain, as well as our love and our words unspoken. Bless us, O God, with the gift of prayer. May we face you with an open heart, with trusting faith unembarrassed and unashamed. Strengthen us with the gift of hope. May we always believe in the beauty of life, the power of goodness, the right to joy, and memory that breeds compassion. And with that in our minds, we rise as we are able for our memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim Shochei Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina Im Kedoshim Udorim Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Yitzchak Velvo Ben Yehuda Vegolda Shehalach Leolamo Bol Harachamim Yastireu Beseder Kenafav Leolamim Beitror Beitror HaChaim Et Nishmato Adonai Hu Nachalato Ve'yanuach B'shalom Hamishkavo V'nomar Amen.
God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold Irwin William Gart close to you forever so that his soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he find a home with you, and may he rest in peace. And together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Why don't you do it?
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude our service here at Temple Emmanuel. We'll have burial and interment at Golden Hill Cemetery. We do not have an escorted procession today, so if you'd like to join us at the cemetery, we'll ask you to make your own way, and if you need to know the way, in the pamphlets that we handed out are directions to the cemetery. If you happen to follow the hearse and the two family cars, please remember, since we are not in procession, we must all obey traffic laws. The family will be receiving at the Seasons Apartments in the party room at 3498 East Ellsworth Avenue. They'll be there today after the service, starting just about 4 o'clock with a minion at 5 p.m. If I can ask you to please remain in your places as we escort the family and the casket out, and I'll invite the pallbearers forward at this time.